who this man is? I'm sure that Judge Bao Zheng. We all imagine a man with a talent for judging cases, a large, stout body, dark skin, and a crescent moon on his forehead. But the truth is not like that. We have all been spectacularly deceived, as recent archaeological evidence has discovered many horrifying songs hidden in Bao Kong's tomb. Today's story may change your image of a historical figure, far different from in the movies. Don't take your eyes off the screen and join me in exploring what mysteries archaeologists have decoded. Do you know who this man is? 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 And join me in exploring what mysteries archaeologists have decoded inside Bao Tong's tomb. The story began on a spring afternoon in 1973, when a staff member named Wu Jingyan from the Anhui province was reading the news in a local newspaper when suddenly his eyes widened in astonishment. Wu Jingyan saw an announcement in the Anhui Daily that the Hefei No. 2 steel plant was building a lime kiln and had to relocate some ancient tombs discovered earlier. They needed to find some of the Medici's unclaimed tombs. With his archaeological expertise, Wu Jingyan noticed many unusual things about these ancient tombs. He guessed this could be a group of tombs from the Song Dynasty. Upon discovering a group of Song Dynasty tombs about to be relocated, Wu Jingyan immediately reported it to his superior. Fortunately, his superior was also an enthusiast with a good archaeological background. He understood the importance of protecting ancient cultural relics. Therefore, the Anhui Provincial Museum dispatched a team of archaeological experts along with a rescue team to excavate those tombs. The excavation team urgently went to the Hefei No. 2 steel plant in the eastern suburbs of Hefei. The construction workers there said they still had to continue their leveling work. So, the archaeological team didn't have much time to work. They only had 2 days to excavate the entire area. If delayed, the relics could be completely buried. Without further hesitation, Wu Jingyan's team got to work, right in the first hour of excavation. The team hit a dead end when they saw that most of the tombstones had long disappeared. Even some tombstones had been brutally smashed. Jingyan assessed that this could be a consequence of the Cultural Revolution period. Therefore, they couldn't determine which tomb was more important and whose it was. They didn't know what to focus on next. To not miss any small detail, the team discussed and decided to start from the farthest point. The smallest tomb, filled with soil, began to be dug up. Let's see what happened. The team assessed that this small tomb had been dug up at least twice, possibly more. They thought this tomb had nothing of value left. However, shortly after, what surprised and astonished them was that beneath the soil layer was a pair of coffins made of golden silk nanmu wood, more valuable than pure gold. Golden silk nanmu is an extremely precious type of wood, also known as Jinjitsan wood. People often compare golden silk nanmu to the Lamborghini of the wood world. It can be said to be the champion of champions. This type of wood is so precious and rare that even if you had a lot of money, you might not be able to buy it. It requires very strict natural conditions, only growing at altitudes from 1,000 to 1,500 meters in humid and warm climates. Jinjitsan prefers shade and dislikes sunlight, grows very slowly, taking 300 to 500 years to mature. It's hard to imagine its immense value. But maturity is still not what it creates value, because among dozens of Jinjitsan trees, only one has a golden core, which are perfect wood grains radiating satin golden light. Moreover, golden nanmu has characteristics that create luxury, typically having a unique fragrance, resisting termites and moths. Not rotting for thousands of years, whether in floods or droughts, the wood will not deform or crack. Therefore, this type of wood is a luxury candidate for making coffins for nobility and royalty. We need to ask. In a remote place with modest economic conditions like Hefei. In a small tomb, without even a seal, golden silk non-mu coffins appeared. This is truly shocking and puzzling. Could the owner of this tomb be a member of the royal family, or even more? The entire archaeological team couldn't maintain their composure. They quickly carried a coffin outside, opened the lid, and looked inside. They were stunned, not because of what was in the coffin but quite the opposite. They saw nothing at all. Nothing other than two skeletons, one male and one female. Part of one skeleton was broken. What was inside this coffin was truly modest compared to its magnificent exterior. After wiping away the accumulated sand around the coffin, Go Tin-han discovered that on both sides of the coffin were attached 6 strange rings, arranged very neatly. This design was very rare on coffins from the Song Dynasty. While everyone was thinking and intensely discussing the meaning of the rings, suddenly, a member of the team exclaimed in surprise. He discovered many fragments of a broken stone seal nearby. The Song Dynasty. The tomb of Lady Dong Ti from Vin Kang district. It wasn't typical for an archaeology enthusiast like Go Tin-han to recognize that this was the tomb of the famous Bao Zheng. Buried beside him was his wife, Lady Dong Ti. To answer the question of why the tomb of a minister of rites was so simple, we need to turn back time to see what Bao Zheng's life had been through. Bao Zheng, born in Baojia village, Lo Chao in 1999, in today's Phi Dong district, in Hoi province. His family, the Bao family, was an official family. His father was Bao Lin Yi, a member of the Ministry of Works during the Song Dynasty. Specializing in metallurgy, tea, and salt production, Bao Trong was the only son of the Bao family. Tea black, and his forehead didn't. He was a handsome man with fair skin. Lord Bao was honest, upright, filial, and obedient. At 26 years old, Lord Bao married a woman named Dong Ti. A few years after marriage, he became a teacher at a small secondary school. It wasn't until Lord Bao was 38 that he began his official career. His first official position was as the county magistrate of Bin Zuang under Guan Chao. Therefore, the image of a godlike youth of Bao Zheng is merely the result of cinematic creativity, completely unlike reality. Although many legends have been passed down, in Lord Bao's actual case history, only one case was officially recorded. That was the case that made his reputation spread throughout the Great Song. First, we need to understand that at that time, the detection, prosecution, and trial of cases were very arbitrary. All decisions were made by the county magistrate without relying on any objective evidence. One day, a farmer named Lu Tian came to the government office to report that someone had cut the tongue of his only ox. At that time, oxen were very important in agriculture and also very precious. Therefore, for an ox to have its tongue cut and slowly die was truly a huge loss for the farmer. Upon hearing the news, Magistrate Bao hurried to meet and question a man named Lu. First, think about whether you have any enemies. Livelihood, I can. Magistrate Bao thought for a while, then decided he had to use the most ruthless tactics. He leaned close to the farmer's hand and whispered something. Oh no, I can. Magistrate Bao still insisted that he go home and follow his instructions. The very next day, people saw the farmer named Lu butchering his ox to sell at the market. He was surprised by this. Shortly after, someone came to the government office to accuse Lu Tian of the crime of slaughtering livestock without permission. As mentioned above, livestock played an indispensable role in agricultural production at that time. Therefore, any act of slaughtering livestock was considered illegal, and the punishment for this crime was very severe. For example, being eaten 100 strokes, or having 20 gourds pierced into one's life. That's why Lu Tian shook his head when he heard Magistrate Bao. Because it was Magistrate Bao himself who told Lu Tian to kill. Was it you who cut the tongue of Lu Tian? Upon hearing that question, the accuser was both surprised, embarrassed, and frightened. After some struggle, he finally confessed. It turned out that Magistrate Bao had accurately grasped the psych's tongue didn't. It can only be deduced that his purpose was for revenge, to put Lu Xian in a difficult situation. S actions, witnessing Lu Xian. Knowing that purpose, Bao Zheng devised a countermeasure against. He told Lu Xian to kill his own cow to lure the vicious enemy into the light. As predicted, when he saw Lu Xian commit the crime, he was overjoyed and immediately went to the county office to report him. Luring the snake out of its hole. This case shows that Bao Zheng was a person with logical thinking and thorough consideration of all issues, grasping the nuances of human psychology. But his crime-solving career was not long. He only worked at the county office for a brief 6 years. After that, he was transferred to the imperial court to manage finances and various taxes. Subsequently, he held the position of Kaifeng prefect, overseeing all judicial matters in the capital. Bao Zheng was an incorruptible official. His principles as an official never changed. He never accepted any bribes. He even dared to speak up to criticize and reprimand high-ranking court officials when they were negligent in their duties. Even the emperor's most trusted concubine at the time, Consort Zheng Yifei, he did not hesitate to offend. He once firmly opposed Consort Zheng Yifei's request to the emperor to promote her uncle. Fortunately, Emperor Rentong of Song was a good emperor who valued talent. He held Bao Zheng in high regard. Therefore, Bao Zheng's official career progressed smoothly. In 1062, Bao Zheng, who had always been in good health, suddenly fell ill in his office and passed away 13 days later at the age of 63. Following his sudden death, many rumors spread that Bao Zheng was poisoned by those he had offended. However, to this day, no one has been able to decode the mysterious circumstances of his sudden death. It has become a major question mark in Chinese history. Back in 1973, when the tomb of Bao Zheng and his wife was discovered, it was an opportunity to unravel the mystery of his death. However, after the archaeological team confirmed it was Bao Zheng's tomb, they raised many questions. For example, who destroyed the tombstone? Why were Bao Zheng and his wife buried in this small tomb? Why were his bones fractured when historical records say Bao Zheng had no physical injuries at death? Why was the precious Nanmu wood coffin still intact? What is the meaning of the ring inside the coffin? After research, they concluded that the precious Nanmu wood coffin with no burial goods inside was the easiest paradox to explain. Bao Zheng never accepted bribes. If his wealth couldn't afford a precious Nanmu wood coffin, it's possible that after Bao Zheng, the emperor personally attended his funeral to express grief, even posthumously honored him as Minister of Rights and gifted him this precious coffin. The reason the coffin remained intact was because it was too large and heavy for thieves to carry away. As the archaeological team continued excavating, suddenly a local elder named Sha Guanghan came to meet the team leader. He said, "Our ancestors were once the caretakers of the Bao family cemetery." According to Elder's accounts, the Bao family cemetery is not where you were excavating, but located in the rapeseed field behind the cemetery. The excavation team was skeptical. However, their time was limited because the Hefei No. 2 steel plant would soon level this entire area. They took a chance and followed the old man's advice. They immediately went to the rapeseed field. They dug at a location guided by Sha Guanghan. As soon as they dug to a depth of 1 meter, an ancient brick tomb appeared. The team was very excited. They had finally found the real Bao family cemetery.
However, someone had been there first. The cemetery had been destroyed. Even the foundation bricks had been removed.
Fortunately, there were still clues for the archaeological team to continue. They found 12 earthen figurines varied according to Song Dynasty burial customs. This ritual was only used for officials at second rank and above. Of course, a minister of ranks like Bao Zheng would have this ritual applied. Another clue was the stone base for the tombstone in the tomb, judging by the shape and size of the stone slab. Both matched quite well with Bao Zheng's tombstone excavated from the small tomb earlier.
There is a high possibility that this is Bao Zheng's main tomb. Later, for some reason, it was moved to that small tomb. So who moved the remains of Bao Zheng and his wife? Why were they moved to a place only tens of meters away?
Regarding this series of questions, Shao Wonghong also had no answers. He only knew the single piece of information passed down by his ancestors. That is the true location of the Bao family's.
Archaeologists had to look for answers elsewhere. After studying the local chronicles of Luzhou, they found some useful information.
62 years after Bao Gong's death, in 1127, the Jin army captured Kaifeng, the capital of the northern Song Dynasty.
They then advanced to capture other locations, and Hefei was no exception. When the Jin army arrived, the Bao family had to flee to avoid disaster.
Archaeologists speculate that descendants of the Bao family, fearing their ancestral tombs would be robbed, hastily moved the two sets of remains and the steel to that small tomb.
S remains. The broken steel can be explained as Bao Gong. Because they only searched for tombs of nobles and the wealthy, they had no time for small tombs. It can be said that Bao Zheng's descendants inherited his intelligence and flexible thinking. Thanks to this, over the next 900 years, the small tomb burying a great figure luckily escaped all grave robbers and remained intact.
The research team later excavated the tombs of Bao Gong's sons, grandsons, and dozens of other relatives. The archaeological team transported the valuable coffins and cells to the Liangli Cultural Museum for display.
All other excavated remains were handed over to the descendants of the Bao family. They placed them in 11 pottery jars and found a local wilderness area to bury them. It seemed everything ended here, but when experts restored the steel, they found an excellent text revealing many other mysteries, which recorded. That was in 1062.
When Bao Zheng was working, he suddenly fell ill, requested sick leave, and returned home. Emperor Renzong of Song sent an envoy to bring him good medicine, but Bao Zheng passed away a few days later. Archaeologists couldn't help but be astonished upon learning this information. Could Emperor Renzong of Song be the one who harmed Bao Gong? On one hand rewarding him, on the other conspiring with the forces offended by Bao Gong. If Bao Gong died from secret poisoning, scientists speculate it could have been arsenic, the most famous poison during the Song Dynasty.
Slow drug.
The first person to die from this poison was Li Yu, the empress of the Southern Tang Dynasty.
Mochi.
Because the main component of this drug contains a neurotoxin called sarcinium. Those who ingest it would suffer muscle spasms and die in great pain.
But when the coffin was opened, team members could clearly see that Bao Zheng's bones were extended, not bent. Therefore, the second possibility could be ruled out. Scientists then questioned, could Bao Zheng have died from arsenic poisoning? This final mystery remained unsolved.
It wasn't until 1992 that experts decided to re-examine the bone fragments of Bao Gong in the southern tomb coffin. After determining trace elements and conducting X-ray fluorescence analysis, they concluded that the arsenic content in Bao Gong's bones was actually lower than in modern humans. Not only was the arsenic content low, but the content of other toxic elements was also lower than in us.
Therefore, Bao Gong could only have died naturally, and it seems he had a very healthy diet. After analyzing the remains, experts concluded that Bao Dong was a small man with a height of about 1.65 meters. Far from the strong, dark-faced man in the youth film Bao Qingtian, which is familiar to us.
In 1987, the Anhui Provincial Cultural Department built a new Bao family cemetery park. They placed 20 of the 35 bone fragments back into the coffin made of bamboo wood and buried it in the cemetery. The remaining 15 fragments were collected into the Anhui Provincial Museum.
Since then, the Bao family cemetery has become a local tourist attraction. With this, the rumor that Bao Dong was poisoned to death for over 1,000 years could finally be proven untrue. Thank you all for your interest and attention. See you in the next videos.